Okay, hello internet. My name is Ian, and if you've clicked on this video, then by twist of fate or blood curse on your family, you have found my channel. Welcome and thank you so much for watching. As you can see, the channel is called I Want to Read, and I'm going to make this exactly what it says on the tin. This is the first video on this channel, and this is actually the first video I've ever put out on the internet, so please be gentle with me. But I'm going to kind of use this one to sort of two-part explain what I'd like this channel to be going forward. And also, since this is going to be a book thing, kind of go over what I'm going to be reading this month and have already finished. So I'm mainly a sci-fi fantasy guy. I also dabble into historical fiction and literary fiction. I mean, you can kind of see some of the stuff behind me. I've got like my Stephen King's up there, lots of science fiction, fantasy stuff. I got my Harry Potter's over here, Book of the New Sun, some Star Wars stuff, a little bit of everything. And I also try to get into one nonfiction per month, so I'm a mix of physical and audio media. Audio is mainly just because I travel a lot for work, so I can get books done in the car. And yeah, so I basically am just kind of making this one part something because I'm the only real big reader that I know, or if there's people that I know that are watching this, sorry I didn't know you read a whole lot, but I'd love to talk about books with you too. But I'm basically just making this a space where I can talk about books, and maybe eventually this is going to be some kind of awesome community that we can all kind of get together in and share stories and book recommendations and the like. I'm always looking for more. And also kind of keep this as a video diary, so if I finish a book now, I can look back in years or decades down the road and kind of see my initial reactions. And that's kind of what I'd like this channel to be. So it would be really cool if all of you would come along for that kind of ride. And with that, I guess I'll go into what I've already read this month and what I'm going to read. So the first one that I finished was Destiny's Way. This is like book 13, I think, in the New Jedi Order series of Star Wars. So for a little bit of reference, I'll make this really, really quick. This one is like 20-something years after the end of Return of the Jedi. And this is the old timeline, so this is before Disney bought Star Wars. And Luke, Han, and Leia, they're all a little bit kind of past their prime, and there's a next generation now that are on the cusp of adulthood, 18, 19, 20 years old. And this is sort of transitory, that generation taking the reins. The whole New Jedi Order series is based around an extra-galactic race of religious zealots that use biotechnology instead of mechanical technology that have invaded the Star Wars galaxy and are just taking it by storm. And one of the hallmarks of the series is that it gets a lot darker. There's characters that die, there are serious stakes, and it never goes into outright just grim, dark horror territory, but there's some pretty intense stuff in here, and I love it. It's absolutely awesome. We're about 3/4 of the way through the series at this point. Right about the halfway is like a couple books that are kind of the Empire Strikes Back, where the characters are at their very lowest. And this is sort of on the upswing, so Destiny's Way is kind of their first big foray into striking back against the Yuuzhan Vong. That's the name of the species that has come in to try and conquer the Star Wars galaxy. And I'm really, really enjoying this series. I wasn't reading these when they were first coming out, but it's really cool to finally be able to step into that. And I definitely recommend the EU books. That's what they call that old timeline, the Star Wars EU, the expanded universe. I definitely recommend those to people who are looking for a little bit more in Star Wars. I mean, there's lots of movies and TV shows coming out now, but if you want a different kind of universe, that's something that I would suggest pursuing. It's just like any other property, there's hits and there's misses. But there's never anything, at least that I've come across in New Jedi Order, that's outright bad. Some of it's, not so good. But I'm really liking what I'm seeing so far. And it's a good ride. So that one I finished just a couple days ago. I actually started it in February, so I'm counting it towards March because I finished it, I think on like the 5th or something, like just a couple days ago. The next one I finished was actually last night, was League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. So this was my first foray into graphic novels. I've been interested in picking up this one or just any number of graphic novels for a little while now, so I finally did it. It's obviously it's mainly illustrations, so they do tend to go a little bit faster than novels. But the reason why I picked up this one is because I was one of like 5 people that actually really liked the movie. I like the steampunk and diesel punk aesthetic, and also the idea that Al Moore had when he, wrote the comic was making this like a Justice League of Victorian era literary figures. So you've got Captain Nemo, Alan Quartermain, the Invisible Man, Henry Jekyll, Edward Hyde, etc. And if you've seen the movie, the very broad strokes of the movie are pretty similar to what is in the first volume, in that it is this gathering of these figures from Victorian era literature conducting some kind of covert mission ostensibly for the MI5, and that's kind of where it diverges. So the meat of the story is pretty different. So even if you've seen the movie, there's still some stuff in here for you. And there's 2 volumes. So the first volume is a lot like the movie was, and then the second volume, in my opinion, starts off very, very strong, gets stronger, and then it just kind of goes in this weird direction that I really wasn't that much of a fan of. So if I'm gonna go this out of 5, it's like probably a 4 for the first volume and maybe like a 2.5 to 3 for the second volume. It's not put me off of graphic novels. I was just expecting a little bit more. It wasn't bad, and if you like the movie, go for it, but it wasn't like my favorite thing ever, if that makes sense. So that's why I already finished in March. And then the next one I've got coming up is an old favorite of mine. I got the shirt for the occasion, and that's Jurassic Park. I've got the very nice Folio Society edition that my wonderful fiance got me for Christmas. And I've got another Folio Society. I've got Book of the New, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, I've got Book of the New Sun up there, which is also the Folio Society. I just love these because it's acid-free paper, really high-quality craftsmanship, like these beautiful illustrations in here. I've read this book like 5 or 6 times. I've had a mass-market paperback edition that I got like 15 years ago, and I read it until it fell apart. So I haven't had a copy for a good while, and then I got, like I said, I got this one for Christmas. And if you've been living under a rock since 1993, Jurassic Park is about scientists going to this island owned by this rich guy who brought dinosaurs back to life, and then everything goes wrong. It's the, again, just like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the broad strokes of the movie are the same as the book. And in fact, Jurassic Park is, I would say, comparatively between the two, is a lot closer to the book. If anything, the book is actually more of a horror story. It's a lot more visceral that happens. It's stuff that I might make a whole video talking about the differences between the book and the movie, because those are 2 that I know very, very well. It's the same story, but it's told differently. It's kind of like The Shining. If you've read the book and seen the movie for Shining, it's the same story, but it's told differently, so you'll get a different experience about it, and you'll still get something out of it if you have seen the movie and have yet to read the book, or somehow haven't seen the movie. So it's an old favorite. I'm very excited to go back to Isla Nublar with this one. I've got a couple of different choices next. I have the books written out that I want to read, but I don't quite have an order yet. The nonfiction for the month is going to be Midnight in Chernobyl, which is going to be an audio. I don't have a copy. And that one is, of course, based around the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. And from what I understand, it is a collection from interviews, testimonies, witness journals, etc., of people who were in and around Pripyat when that was happening, and then people who were involved in the cleanup. Might be a little bit off on that. I looked at it briefly. I was just very interested in pursuing that subject. I don't really necessarily have a book in mind when I pick my nonfiction. I just kind of pick a topic and then look for something that is well received and then pursue it. And I also, I take a minute to fact check and make sure it's not just something that somebody's making up. But yeah, so I wanted to know more about that episode in history, so that's the one I picked. And usually my nonfictions do tend to be historical. So my last one was Napoleon, A Life, which is, a big, thick biography of Napoleon Bonaparte. It'll be histories, it'll be biographies, science books, etc., stuff like that. Kind of sprinkled in throughout, which is like, this is not necessarily something I'm going to finish this month. It's just sort of kind of like my palate cleansers. I usually pick like something quick or short stories. In this case, I've got the complete Lovecraft here. Next one on the menu is, I think I've got I got Mountains of Madness bookmarked. So it's a story that has obviously quite a reputation, as does Lovecraft himself. I really don't know that much about it. I just know that Lovecraft has influenced fiction pretty much since he's been writing, and it's just kind of something I like to get into. I don't know that much about the story itself. I kind of like to keep it that way. Being stories about like the unknowable, the macabre, the mysterious, the alien, I feel like it kind of suits that atmosphere to go into it fairly blind. I've read a few of those stories in that compendium already, so it's not like I bought the thing and just didn't like him already. I do. I'm just very excited to explore more, and I kind of been sprinkling those throughout my reading journey to kind of, give myself a little bit more variety. So there's gonna be a couple of those here and there that I go through. What else I got? Gathering Storm, Book 12, and Wheel of Time. So Wheel of Time is what brought me on this most recent cycle in my desire to read more books. I started with Eye of the World, of course, this was in June of 23. And I haven't been reading these back to back to back. I'm not that slow of a reader. It'll be close to 2 years by the time I finish up with Memory of Light. I got the whole set behind me. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of hard to talk about this series at this point without going into spoilers, so I'll keep it to a minimum. It's basically one of those gold standard fantasies. The first book is a little bit Lord of the Ringsy, but it just goes off into this crazy different direction. There's magic systems and foreshadowing and prophecy, and it's just incredible stuff. I don't really know how to describe it without starting from square one. This is book 12. The author for this one is Brandon Sanderson. People who have read more fantasy books will recognize him as probably the most prominent fantasy author in the business today. Robert Jordan was the original author for the series. He sadly passed away after he wrote book 11. So there's 3 more after that one, starting with this one, and these are the 3 that Sanderson wrote. So you see on the cover it says Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson, because it was his story. Sanderson finished it. And the first thing that people tell you when you're getting into Wheel of Time is heaping praise, how incredible it is, what a great journey it is. The books are long, but stick with them because they just get better and better and better. The second thing they tell you is that a couple of the books are kind of slow, and when you get to 600-700 page tomes, and 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on who you ask, of them are on the slow side, that can raise some eyebrows. I tended to power through. I wasn't going to get 6 books in and not finish the stupid thing, but there's a couple of them, like book 9, book 10, that slowed down a lot, but ever since then it's all been coming to a head, and you can really tell that they're building up towards the final confrontation conclusion of the series, and it's all coming to a head, and it's just payoff after payoff after payoff, and it's really exciting. So this one is going to be a big boy. This is probably my big limiting factor on finishing it. These usually take me like 2 weeks, so I should be able to finish it by the end of the month, because Jurassic Park's going to be a pretty quick read for me. So that one's going to be probably, that actually might take me to the end of the month, but in the event that it doesn't, I have a couple of backups. I've got Dune Messiah, deluxe, very nice deluxe edition. This one isn't going to take me too long either. It's like 250 something pages, pretty short. You can see it. I've got Dune, the first one here. You can see the first Dune and how comparatively different it is in size. Dune's one of my favorite books. I've never actually read any of the other ones. I'm probably going to go up to at least God Emperor. I've got a first edition out there. But yeah, I've never read any of the sequels. I'm pretty excited to do it. I've read Dune. It's kind of like Jurassic Park. I've read Dune like 6 or 7 times, and then it's one of those books that's just super foundational to me as a person. Again, like Jurassic Park is. I'll probably make a video at some point about like books that are not necessarily like the best ones I've ever written, but that are most impactful to me. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see something like that. But yeah, so Dune Messiah. I'm really excited to keep going in this universe, to go back to Arrakis, especially because I understand that in these sequel books there's a lot of stuff that gets turned on its head. I know like some of the barest detail, broad strokes things that happen in some of the sequels, but like I mean I don't know the plot of this. I couldn't tell you, so it's going to be an interesting ride. That's most likely going to take me until the end of the month. Oh yeah, I've also got some audiobooks. So I am working through Wisdom of Crowds, which is going to finish up the Age of Madness trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. So for those who don't know, Joe Abercrombie is a fantasy writer, grimdark fiction, and he has a trilogy that is kind of like a swords and sorcery thing. And one of the characteristics of the series is that all the characters are jerks. There are no good guys. One of the more popular characters in the series is literally a torturer. He's an awful, awful, awful human being, but you just want him to win because he's just such. He's just an awesome guy, and you know people who know. So there's that trilogy, and then there's like 3 standalones, and then there's the Age of Madness trilogy, and it does something exciting in fantasy that you don't really see a lot, which is time progression. So, like I said, the first trilogy is more swords and sorcery, and then the second trilogy, there's still some magic stuff in it, but they're kind of stepping into industrialization. There's like a subplot in a series, like a workers' rebellion. So, it expands the storyline. It tells the story of the next generation, and also like having that industrialization aspect of it, in my opinion, makes it a little bit more relatable because that's something that is a little bit closer to true life than like barbarians and swords and spellcraft and stuff like that. So those are going to be the 2 audiobooks that I'm going for, and then I'm probably going to finish those before the end of the month, but everything else other than that is up to what I call the Libby Roulette, which is like I have several books on hold through Libby, which is the library mobile app, and I don't quite know what those are going to be. It all depends on when those holds end. So I'll probably check in when I do a March recap and go over exactly what books I finished for the month. And yeah, so that's kind of what I'm all about. I'm really looking forward to talking some more. I think this is going to be an exciting journey, and I'm happy all you guys are here to come with me on that journey. Let me know in the comments kind of if I'm on the right track, if I'm wasting my time with this nonsense. I'd love to get more book recommendations. You can probably get glimpses of the stuff behind me, and there's a little bit more up top and up on. The camera probably can't see. But yeah, give me a like, give me a subscribe if you're feeling generous. Thank you guys. Again, my first time on the internet. Be gentle with me. Thank you all so much for watching.